الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. In the name of our Most. Last week we were talking about Paul. Now, the question now is, who was agendas to stop the religion of Jesus? The priest. Yes, the high priest. Very important. The high priest's agenda. The high priest's agenda to stop what?
Teaching of Jesus.
To stop the religion of Jesus, who were preached by the disciples. So what did they use? What the high priest used? They used Paul. So he was under the command of the high priest. So we studied that Paul, what did he do with the disciples? He
Persecuted the disciples,
persecuted them.
dragged
They
them.
dragged them out from house, each house, man and woman. Okay? You agree? That's what we. Then suddenly, the situation moved to Damascus. Who was idea this one? Paul. It's very important. It's not the high priest. Paul. He the one asked this. This is the bigger question mark. Why he asked? There is a problem. There is. That's what we're going to study today on the road to Damascus. But very important to know that he the one asked. He the one asked to go there. Do you know why? Because he cannot avoid himself from his house. He cannot avoid himself as a Christian from his house or in Jerusalem. He needs to go away with his only false witnesses. Only. He can. Jesus, according to him, appeared to him in the road to Damascus. Why didn't it appear to him while he's killing and, persons waiting in Jerusalem? Why didn't it appear to him in Jerusalem and stop killing? Why only took the way to Damascus? No. Later we will see that it was his trick, and that's what he needs to go out of Jerusalem to avoid it himself. So what's the cause? What's the reason? He asked letters from the high priest to bring the followers from Jesus from Damascus to Jerusalem. Imagine. How come it's very difficult? I mean, you should clean Jerusalem. You should clean 2 days first. Then you can think about this one. To ask letters. Now, here was happened in the way to Jerusalem, because later we will know Paul, he was seeking for leadership in the society. He's a clever, he's a philosopher. But he can be nothing because of the high priest. Also, he cannot preach Judaism out of the Jewish territory. He cannot, not allowed. And he was not willing to go to and study under the disciples. No. So, and he was not satisfied to be given just some guards or some troops to be leader with them to kill the Christians. This will not satisfy his seeking for leadership. So he asked letter to go to Jerusalem. He get the letters. What happened in the way to Jerusalem? That's what we're going to study and analyze, and you will see. And then from Paul himself, he will expose himself that he was a liar. So the alleged, Nasser.
The alleged conversion of Saul.
It is alleged. He did not become, he did not believe in Jesus. Sure.
The alleged conversion of Saul on the road to Damascus.
Yes.
The story of Paul's alleged conversion to Christianity, or the turning point in his life, was on the road to Damascus.
Yes.
When he was on his way there to arrest the followers of Jesus, men and women, and bring them back in chains to Jerusalem to be punished. The story is also recorded in the book of Acts in 3 separate occurrences.
So we will find in the book of Acts 3 times this story about the way to Damascus, how Paul converted to Christianity, mentioned 3 times in the book of Acts.
The 3 narrations are full of discrepancies and confusion. In any sort of investigation, the one who tells the truth keeps unchanged in his statements, even with repetitions.
They agree. Anyone telling the truth, even he repeats many times, I ask him, still the same. But the one who's not, you will find many discrepancies.
Making it very hard for anyone.
Yes.
Making it very hard for anyone to accuse him of giving false witness. But the one who pretends to be speaking the truth, surely he will be easily exposed by having to repeat his history until it sticks, so to speak.
Now we'll see. Analyze this thing. Now the first narration where in Acts
chapter 9, as related by the author, he said.
So this is written by whom? By Paul, by Luke.
Look,
Now Luke himself reporting what happened to Paul in the road to Damascus. What is it?
he said, as Saul was coming near the city of Damascus, suddenly a light from heaven flashed around him. Then he fell to the ground and heard a voice saying to him, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? And Saul said, who are you, O Lord? And the voice said, I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting. It is hard for you to kick against God. It is hard for you to kick against the goods. So Saul, trembling and astonished, said, Lord, what do you want me to do? And the voice said to him, arise and go into the city, and you will be told what you must do. And the men who were traveling with Saul stood not saying a word. They heard the voice, but they saw no one.
Okay. Now Luke told us, reporting about what happened to Saul, or it actually did not happen, but that's what he claimed. He said, well, he go to Damascus. Why he went there? Having letter to bring the follower of Jesus. Where? To Jerusalem. Imagine how many he had, by the way, had troops. He will bring all the way from Damascus to Jerusalem. You need to have so many people. Yes, but anyway, he said there was a light and there was voice he heard. So, who that one? Jesus talking to Paul. He said, so, why you are persecuting me? لماذا تضطهدني؟ لماذا تضطهدني؟ هذا عيسى يكلم بول وهو رايح لدمشق عشان يجيب اتباع عيسى يسلمون. فجاله من السماء وصوت. So he asked, who are you? So who are you, Lord? And the voice said to him, I am Jesus. Okay? Because he needs to enter to Christianity. This is the only way. This is the only trick. And he had to go all that way because he cannot abort it himself from his house. He cannot abort it himself in Jerusalem. That's why he asked letters to go to Damascus with his false witnesses. So then he said, I am Jesus, why you are persecuting me? Persecuting the disciple. So the voice said to him, Lord, he asked him, Lord, what do you want me to do? So Paul said to Jesus, what do you want me to do? And the voice, this is the voice of Jesus, what he said to him, arise, because he fell down. Yes? Because he said, then he fell to the ground. Who? Paul. Only, according to this, only fell down. So Jesus, the first said to him, arise and go into the city, Damascus, and you will be told what you must do. So did Jesus tell him what to do? Just go there and you will be told. Means somebody will tell you what to do. Just arise, go there, and you will be told what to do. Okay? What you must do. And the men, look at the men. And the men who were traveling with Saul stood not saying. Did they fall down?
No.
No, only him. Okay? Only him. The witnesses? No. Stood not saying a word. They what? Heard. Did they hear Jesus? Did they hear Jesus? They heard the voice. But they saw no one. Okay? Please, is this clear? The most important point is here. Did Jesus tell Paul what to say, what to do? No. He requests him, just go there and you will be told. And also, the one fell down, only Paul. The men with him, they were stopped, standing. They say nothing. They heard, remember, they heard the voice, they saw nothing. So this is reported by Luke about Paul. Now, second narration. The second
account is in Acts chapter 22.
Now,
The author continued recording Paul's personal account of his experience as given
yes.
before the angry Jews
So
in Jerusalem.
now, who's the one reporting? Luke. But who's the one talking? Paul. You remember we said Paul was reporting his story to the Jews, angry Jews, because the angry Jews, they want to catch Paul and kill him because he changed the law. That later the story will come. So the Roman get involved, and they take Paul away from these Jews to kill him. So they want to send him to a place. So he asked permission. He said, let's we talk to these Jews, angry Jews. So Paul started to speak to these angry Jews. Remember, he told them, I was, persecuting, and now he's continuing. This is continuation. He told them how he became Christians. So, verse account of his experience given before the angry Jews in Jerusalem. Paul said,
as I was traveling and coming near
so
Damascus,
he's Paul telling the angry Jews his story.
and as I was traveling and coming near Damascus at about noon, suddenly a great light from heaven flashed around me. I fell to the ground and heard a voice saying to me, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? So I answered, Who are you?
Now the same. Yes?
Who are you, Lord? And he said to me, I am Jesus of Nazareth, whom you are persecuting. Now those who were with me indeed saw the light, and were afraid, but they did not hear the voice of the one who was speaking to me. So I said, what shall I do, Lord? And the Lord said to me, arise and go to Damascus, and here you will be told all things which are appointed for you to do.
Okay, so in this narration, almost the same. Yes? Only the different, those people, did they saw?
No.
So,
They saw the light.
first they heard the voice of Jesus, but they saw nothing. Here, they saw.
They saw the light.
But did they hear the voice?
No.
No. Okay?
It is according to the course it works now. How he is reporting to the people now.
Yes.
Okay.
So, Luke told us, he said, those who with him, they heard the voice but saw nothing.
Yeah.
Now, Paul saying, no, they saw the light, but they heard nothing. But both agree, did Jesus speak to him? Did Jesus speak to Paul to what to do?
No.
No, he said, just go and you will be told. Yes? Clear, please. So we have now, this is a question. Forms what is it? Did they show? Sometimes yes, no, so, no. Okay, third account.
The third record is in Acts chapter 26.
Yes.
The author continued recording Paul's personal account in his own defense before King Agrippa.
Okay, so who's talking now also? Paul. To whom? To the king Agrippa, the Roman. Because also the king asked him, what is your story? What is so now? He told him, well, he was, persecuting, then he now telling him his story about his converting to Christianity. So now Paul told him,
He said, I went to Damascus with authority and commission from the chief priest at midday. At midday, O king, along the road I saw a light from heaven, brighter than the sun, shining around me and those who traveled with me. And when we all had fallen to the ground, I heard a voice speaking to me and saying in the Hebrew language, Saul, Saul, why you are persecuting me? It is hard for you to kick against the goods. So I said, who are you, Lord? And he said, I am Jesus whom you are persecuting. But rise and stand on your feet, for I have a word to you for this purpose, to make you as my servant and a witness both of the things which you have seen and of the things which I will yet reveal to you. I will rescue from the Jewish people as well as from the Gentiles, to whom I now send you, to open their eyes and to turn them from darkness to light and from the power of Satan to God, and that they may receive forgiveness of sins and an inheritance among those who are sanctified by faith in me.
okay, now, in the first two narrations, did Jesus have time to speak to him? Jesus have no time. Just go there and you will be told what to do. Okay? Agree. Did Jesus speak to him? No. Jesus had busy. No time. No time to waste. Just go there and you will be told. Okay? Now, who the one fell down in the first narration? Only Paul. Those who are standing. Now in this narration, let's find out. And here. And when we all had fallen to the ground. Okay? So all. In this narration, all they fell down. There is a purpose why he fell down. You know why? I told you why. Before, Jesus was speaking to whom? Did Jesus speak to Paul? Did Jesus spoke to Paul what to do? So no problem if they are awake, because there is no message. Yes, no message. Now, in this picture, no, it seemed to be no. Jesus had nothing to do, so he started to make lecture to Paul on the road. He told him what to do on the road. He gave them a lecture on the road. That's why he had to make those film down, so they will not hear. So only, that's why he said, stand on your feet. Among those who couldn't down, only stand. Then he gave them this lecture. So these, no witnesses about this one, because they were filmed down. Who filled them down? Paul, in this narration. And that other narration, because no lecture, nothing. So no problem if they're weak. So, can you see?
Yes.
The one falling down, who? Or. Then, who understood the same, then he said, look, you are persecuted, but for I have, look what he said. But, what? But rise and stand on your feet. Who did Jesus speak to? Paul. I have what?
Appeared to you.
Appeared to you for this purpose. To make you what?
As I said, a witness of the things which you have seen and of the things which you I will yet reveal to you.
Yeah. By the way, this one, he needs this one for the future to make direct line with Jesus. Later, he will do use Jesus appeared to me, Jesus said to me. So by the way, did the witnesses hear this one?
No.
Did they hear this one?
No.
Because
They were holding the polygraph.
in this narration they were fallen down, but in another nation,
Awake.
awake. They had, in one case, they heard the voice, but they saw nothing. The other one said no. They saw the light, but they heard nothing. Here, he makes them let them down, falling down, not awake. And that's, he said, I will come to you, I will appear to you, I will told you. Please, did you get the point? Can you see the trick? Oh. And Allah God exposed him. So what he said, look what I will what rescue. So Jesus what he said?
I will rescue
Yes.
from the Jewish people as well as from the Gentiles.
From the Gentiles. What happened to Paul? Do you know? What happened to Paul? In the end, he was killed.
He was beheaded.
Beheaded. Where is Jesus? Because he said, I want, Jesus told him, according to him, I will rescue from the Gentiles the Jews. I will protect you because you are my servant. He was killed.
He was just being used by the Romans.
Okay? Anyway, so look at the lecture of Jesus on the road. So he told him all things on the spot. I will what? Rescue you from. Okay, read.
I will rescue from the Jewish
But look at
people.
this is one of the key words. I will yet
Reveal to you.
reveal to you. Of this.
I will rescue from
What
the
is
Jewish
this?
people.
This one key word. What he said?
And of the things which I will yet reveal to you.
I will. That means in the future, he will claim Jesus came to me. Jesus speak to me. This is the key word here. Okay, I will rescue from the Gentiles. To what? To
To
whom?
whom I now send you.
Now, here is the message.
From
He
the
will,
Gentiles.
please, here is he will rescue from what? The Gentiles to whom I now send you. So, because the head appointed himself to the Gentiles. Paul appointed himself to the Gentiles, non-Jews. Here, by this lie. This is the greatest lie in the whole history of humanity. This is the greatest lie. أكبر كذب في العالم. لا يوجد أكبر في العالم. واستمرت. And it was continued. جيت عيسى له بالطريق إلى دمشق. أكبر كذبة بالتاريخ. This is the greatest lie in history, which is continued up to now. Many nations now misleaded by this. Okay, So now he appointed himself to the Gentiles, whom I will
Send you to open their eyes and to turn them from darkness to light, and from the power of Satan to God, that they may receive forgiveness of sins and an inheritance among those who are sanctified by faith.
I wonder Jesus why not spoke to him while he's alive, to the Gentiles, if they included. I wonder he not at least sent his disciple to the Gentiles. But this one to make marketing for his philosophy, he only injected in the Gentiles. The Jews, they will not accept him. That's why he takes this market of the Gentiles for marketing his philosophy by this life. Please clear? Okay. There is
no doubt that Paul was an intellectual, enlightened, active, influential, and philosopher.
Sure.
He was proficient and clever in that he did not enter Christianity through the door of the disciples. Instead, he
Because
chose
that time, the door of Christianity is the disciples.
Instead, he chose the main door. He entered through Jesus himself and appointed himself as an apostle and Jesus' spokesman,
Yeah.
away from the authority of the disciples. So no one could question him. Stephen had opened the door to Jesus for him. Paul saw it was acceptable for people to accept the claim of seeing God himself, that
Yes.
Jesus is standing next to his right side.
Yes.
Paul also claimed that he saw Jesus and had a direct line with him. Through his direct line and by his own techniques and patience, he succeeded to achieve his dream of having an ideological leadership in the society
Yes.
through his own church that was different from the church of the disciples, and his own doctrines that were different from Jesus' doctrines. He took some items from Jesus' life, such his miraculous birth,
Yes.
the rumor of his alleged death and resurrection, the ascension, and the returning, and mixed with them some elements of the faith of the most popular classic superstitious and religious of pagan cults, and created his very own new religion. So, instead of Paul truly converting to Christianity, he converted Christianity to his own cults.
That's what happened. That's what happened.
Paul Christianity has remained a great trial for nations ever since.
Yes.
It was the will of God that allowed Satan to use Paul to bring this great trial to test people. It will remain so until the second coming of Jesus, when all the truth about him will be clearly manifested against for all to see.
Yeah. So we're again up to the second coming of Jesus.
Jesus already reminded the people to be aware of such false prophets. He said,
Yes,
Yes, please.
yes. Next verse I want to write. He turns Christianity. So instead of
he converted
Yes.
Christianity.
comparing Christianity to his own.
To his own, yes. Actually, he did not become a Christian, no. Because it wasn't this is a Christianity. But he turned the Christianity to his philosophy. That's why Christianity today is not the Christianity of reason, the Christianity of Paul. So who's the one converted? Christianity. To Paul philosophy.
Yes.
Not Paul to religion of Jesus.
Pauline doctrine. Jesus already reminded people to be aware of such false prophets. He said, for false messiahs and false prophets will appear. They will perform great miracles and wonders in order to deceive even God's chosen people.
Imagine, Jesus said they will perform miracles, those false. So miracles are not to prove. Jesus said even they will perform miracles. False prophets.
And wonders in order to deceive even God's chosen people if possible.
Yeah. Why they have through work of Satan, these miracles, in order to deceive mankind.
Listen, I have told you this ahead of time. And he also said, many will say to me in that day, day of judgment,
Yes.
Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in your
Look,
name?
this is at the judgment day. The Christians today And Paul is the first one, and the priests, they will go to and look for Jesus. Lord, Lord, we prophesied by your name. We do miracles by your name. He said, go away, I don't know. What does he say? Many will, he said, look, this is what he said. Many will say to me in that day, day of judgment, Lord,
Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in your name, cast out demons in your name,
cast demons by the name of Jesus.
and done many wonders in your name?
Yes.
And then I will declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who practice lawlessness.
Look at,
Surely Paul will be the first one.
sure, to be kicked out.
And whatever the verses that Luke wrote about his very few miracles is just providing the warning of Jesus about him. As well as in John.
Look at this verse. This is really for Paul. This is Jesus prophesying about Paul. John 5:43. What does it say?
43. Jesus already prophesied about this self-appointed messenger
Self-appointed messenger
who came in his own name.
came in his own name.
He said, I have come in my Father's name,
So Jesus came in his Father's name, by Allah's name.
and you do not receive me.
And you don't receive him.
If another comes in his own name, him you will receive. Who is the person who came in his own name and had more covers in the New Testament than Jesus or even his disciples?
Yes.
The answer is Paul. So those who choose on their own will be doomed because of not adhering to any warnings or reminder and just keeping with their inherited faith. Indeed, they failed the great trial, but those who choose by their own will to be blessed because they already see the truth and take hold of it.
Example.
Indeed, they pass the test.
You will on a trial with what you have inherited. It was a trial, but start to think, alhamdulillah, you will do this. Okay? Now, we see the discrepancies which is already pointed out. In the first narration, we know, this we know, heard and we know about it. Yes, this is the first discrepancies. We already said, they saw the voice. Yes, we already worked it out. No need to. Number 2. In
the first and the second narrations, only Paul fell to the ground.
also this we talk about it. Only for yes.
And the men who were with him remained standing.
Yes.
They were speechless in the first narration and were just afraid in the second. But in the third narration,
All.
Paul and all his men had fallen to the ground. Such contradictory testimonies would be thrown out of any
Do you agree? You see, before only him. In the second, all. In the third. Now, the author of Acts.
The author of the Acts in the first narration,
Yes.
and
Also, we worked it out about this one.
and Paul in the second narration, both testify that when Paul asked Jesus, saying, what shall I do, Lord?
Jesus.
And Jesus told him to do absolutely nothing other than to go to Damascus, where he would be told all things that he should do.
Yes.
The reader should keep in mind that the men who were traveling with Paul did not fall to the ground in
Yes.
these two narrations.
Okay. They were awake. So did Jesus speak to him? According to no. He said, just go there. So bear in mind, when Jesus said, just go there and you will be told, the witnesses were standing awake. Now,
They were standing awake and afraid. So this might be the reason for Paul to shoot Jesus not telling him anything on the road, rather than asking him to go to Damascus, where he would be told alone.
yes, because in the picture, they were standing, they heard, so he made Jesus not speaking, just go there. Yes? Because that he put them in a picture, they are awake, so he completes his picture, Jesus did not speak. Yes? Because the problem they will ask them, what did he say? What did they will have problem? So No, they did not hear that. Only alone he will be told there. Because in the picture he made them awake. And it will be a problem later when they ask him, and they might, they have mixed different, So better make them awake, and Jesus did not speak to me. Let me go there and I will be told alone. Okay?
Both the author of the Acts and Paul showed Jesus as if he had no time to tell Paul what to do at that instance.
Yes. Now,
But in the third narration, Paul wanted to show us as if Jesus had enough time, in contrary to the first and the second narrations. Because Jesus already told Paul about all things that he should do in detail while they were on the road. Also, the reader should keep in mind that the man with Paul in this third narration had fallen to the ground with him,
okay.
not awake.
Why did this picture make them fall down? Because Jesus will speak. Okay? Because it said Jesus will speak, so he fell them down to the ground, so they didn't hear what the lecturer was.
In this case, there was no need for Paul to go to Damascus to be told what he must do. And no one can ask him for any witness for Jesus' speech on the road, because all his men had fallen to the ground.
Yeah. If they ask you, they will say, no, we don't know, we don't know.
Again, a case like this is a simple court of law should be held suspect and hence dismissed because of the contradictory statements of Paul about the place where he was informed by Jesus. Was it on the road or in Damascus?
So, in this story, in the road to Damascus. Another one, no, in Damascus. Now,
If we continue,
now we will continue. If we continue about the narration. About the narration, we will continue. If we continue in the first narration.
if we continue reading the first narration by the author.
Okay, what is the first narration? Only Jesus standing, fell down. And those witnesses heard the voice, saw no light. Yes? And Jesus told him, just go there and you will be told. Here it was. Well, what happened? If we continue,
We will find that when Paul went to Damascus to find out what he should do,
yes.
a man named Ananias was sent by Jesus, entered the house where Paul was, and placed his hands on Paul and said to him,
Okay, so what happened? Luke told us, Jesus said to Paul, just go there and you will be told. So Paul went to a house. What happened? A man sent by Jesus. His name is Ananias. To teach Paul what to do.
I said there was already an arrangement between Paul and the man whom Jesus sent.
We don't question this one, but at least we also show the discrepancy. So the continuation of the first narration, Jesus did not tell Paul, just go there to Damascus. Paul went to Damascus, entered to a house. Later, a man came to him. His name is Ananias, sent by Jesus to tell him what to do. And that's what happened, yes? So Jesus
has sent me.
What this man Ananias said to Jesus, to Paul?
Place his hands on Paul, said to him,
Hey,
Jesus has sent me so that you might see again and be filled with the Holy Spirit.
okay.
Paul stood up and was baptized. He stayed for a few days with the believers in Damascus and preached in the synagogues there.
Okay, very important to know. What happened? Ananias came, blessed him. Yes? Then Paul stayed in where? Jerusalem. Paul stood up and was baptized. He stayed for what? Remember, a few days. He stayed in Jerusalem and Damascus a few days with the believers in Damascus. Who this believer? The one who was planning to bring them back in chain. Yes? Remember, he went to bring the follower of Jesus. So he stayed with them a few days. And what also? Preaching in the synagogues. There. Mujama'at. He was preaching. Then after many days, he went to Jerusalem. Remember? A man, his name is Ananias, came to him in the house. And he told him, I was sent by Jesus to teach you. Then Paul stayed with the believers of Jerusalem, of Damascus, preaching in the synagogues. Then after many days, he went to Jerusalem. Now the second narration.
And when we continue reading the second narration by Paul himself, and because he was
This is by Paul. Remember, we have three narration. One narration by Luke. Second narration by Paul himself speaking to the angry Jews. Third narration to King Agrippa, Roman. Now, second narration, why Paul is speaking to the angry Jews. Continue. What
and
happened?
because he was addressing his speech to Jewish people,
Okay, so he was addressing his speech to whom? To the angry Jews. The one who's listening to him, Jews. That's why he gave more attention to Ananias, because he's Jewish. What happened?
he gave a role in this narration to the Jewish man, to that Jewish man named Ananias.
Okay.
And he showed
Because now Paul, in this narration, his audience what? Jews.
Jews.
The angry Jews. That's why he gave a big role for this Ananias. Because they are Jews, that's why what he said to him, and showed him highly respected by all the Jews. He wanted to prove to them, even this Ananias man is very righteous with that, he the one teaching me to convince the Jews that he was right.
and showed him highly respected by all the Jews living in Damascus. He simply made it suitable for his audience, the Jews, and brought absolutely no mention about the Gentiles.
Okay. No mention about the Gentiles. You remember in the third narration, he said Jesus appointed him to the Gentiles. In this, to the only if didn't mention about Gentiles. He didn't say to the Jews, I was appointed to the Gentiles. No. Only he gave a great role for this Ananias. What he said?
He said,
Look at what he said.
in the city was a man named Ananias, a religious man who obeyed our law and was highly respected by all the Jews living there. He came to me, he stood by me, and said, Brother Saul, see again. At that very moment I saw again. He said, the God of our fathers, who has chosen you to know his will, to see
Who's speaking this one? Ananias.
Ananias.
And he said, the God
of our fathers has chosen you to know his will, to see his righteous servant Jesus, and to hear the voice of his mouth. For you will be a witness for him to tell everyone what you have seen and heard. Get up and be baptized, and have your sins washed away by praying to him.
So he tried now convincing his audience, the Jews. Yes, that's what happened to this highly respected man, Ananias. No mention about Gentiles, okay?
But if we continue,
Now, look at the other relation. Now he's speaking to Gentiles, to King Agrippa, no Jews. Yes? Look at the situation. Now he is talking to King Agrippa, no Jews. What did he say?
but if we continue reading the third narration by Paul also himself, by also Paul himself, in his own defense before King Agrippa at the audience hall of the judgment court of Caesarea, there were King Agrippa, Bernice,
All this
Festus,
Roman, all this name of Roman men.
with the military chiefs and the leading men of the city. The audience of Paul this time were Gentiles. So
His word just here, Gentiles, no Jews.
So he emphasized to them that Jesus had already sent to him to the Gentiles as well. And because his audience this time were Gentiles, So there was no need to give a role for the Jewish mediator of Damascus, Ananias.
Yes.
He made Jesus speak directly to him as a role.
Okay. So, because he's speaking to Gentiles, yes, he didn't give any role for Ananias. He didn't mention. He made Jesus speaking to him at the spot. So in the first narration, because he was talking to Jews, yes, so he make a role for Ananias, that's entering him. Here he's speaking to Gentiles, he eliminates. Okay, so, and make Jesus speak to him at the spot, on the road.
Why he cannot use that same way to the Jews?
What do you mean?
As what he said to the Gentiles, why he cannot make it same as in the Jews?
Because no need for these Jews to convince Gentiles. No need for this Ananias while he's talking to Gentiles. But he needs this Ananias to convince the Jews. And he saw him, he highly respected man by all those people in Damascus. To prove to him that he was appointed by Jesus. Now he's talking to Gentiles, no need for that man. Okay, if no need, Jesus speak to me directly on the spot. Did you get the point? While he's speaking to Gentiles, he making Jesus himself speaking to him on the spot, on the road. While he's speaking to Jews, he bring a mediator, Ananias. Please, did you get my point?
Yes.
Clear?
Okay.
Can you see the difference?
Yeah.
And because he give rule for Ananias here, he makes his witnesses awake. And he was told only Damascus. Because no need for Ananias to the Gentiles. Okay? So he makes the witnesses fill down and Jesus spoke to him on the spot. Okay?
He made Jesus speak directly to him on the road. But before that, he had to show that all his men had fallen to the ground with him. Then only he was asked by Jesus to stand and heard this lecture directly from him.
Look what he said.
But rise and stand on your feet, for I have a word to you. For
That was
this
we read it before this one. Okay? We read this before. Okay? Faith in me.
even the pagan,
Even the pagans,
Festus
yes.
realized that it was just a hallucination. He shouted, "You are mad, Paul! Much learning is driving you mad."
Because he was talking to the Gentiles and speaking about his story that Jesus talked to me and when there is light and we will come. His audience, Gentiles, this one can't comprehend what he's saying. That's what he said. You are mad, Paul, much learning and driving you is mad. It's been just what you are doing is hallucination. I can't accept it. I can't believe you. So those Gentiles, those pagans realized it is bullshit. But the problem is the Christians today, they don't accept it as inspiration. But this pagan, he realized just bullshit. Okay?
It is obvious that Paul wanted to put in the mind of King Agrippa that it was his destiny to be rescued from the Jewish people by the Gentiles. So the next time, it would be King Agrippa himself who should rescue him from the Gentiles.
Because Jesus
as well.
said, I will rescue you from the Gentiles and from the Jews.
For Paul very well knew what to do. He was most cunning. The problem of Paul was not only to the road to Damascus,
Yes.
but also after his alleged vision.
Okay, now we see the problem. Look, we saw a problem in the road to Damascus, yes? We saw. Now look at what more problem is.
The reader is expected to compare the following narrations to see the lies firsthand. He stayed for a few days with the believers in Damascus. He preached.
Look what he says. This is the one narration. to compare the following narration on the first time. He stayed what? For a few days. Remember, he stayed in Damascus a few
He
days
went to Jerusalem
with the believer
with the believers in
in
Damascus.
Damascus.
He preached in the synagogues there,
Yes.
and after many days, he went to Jerusalem.
Please remember this one. What happened? He stayed
Damascus.
in Damascus.
Few days.
He stayed for a few days with the believers. Yes, he preached in the synagogue with this believer. And after many days, he went to Jerusalem. So, you can say, okay, no problem. Then,
When he reached Jerusalem,
yes.
he tried to join the disciples.
So when he, after go to Jerusalem, he tried to join.
The disciples.
So the disciples afraid of that man, yes, because he was persecuting them.
No.
Because they didn't know about his alleged conversion. But
But they would not believe that he was a disciple. They were all afraid of him. Then Barnabas,
okay, please, did the disciples meet Jesus, Paul, here? Yes, they were afraid.
no.
He tried to join them. Okay, please, he stayed in Jerusalem a few days, preaching with the believer of Damascus. After many days, where he went back to Jerusalem. Now he's a Christian. Already appointed himself a Christian. Did the disciple know? No, because not yet told them the story. So he tried first to join the disciple. So he met them. So, but they were afraid because he was used to persecuting them. So what happened? Barnabas, but they would not believe that he was a disciple. And they were all afraid of him. Then Barnabas came to him.
Then Barnabas came to him and took him to the apostles, and declared unto them how he had seen the Lord in the way, and that he had spoken to him, and how he had preached boldly at Damascus in the name of Jesus. So he was with them at Jerusalem, coming in and going out, preaching boldly the name of Jesus. Then he went to Caesarea, then to Tarsus.
Okay, so this narration, please remember this one. Damascus, converted. Few days, preaching with the, after many days, went back to Jerusalem. Did he meet the disciple? Yes. Who introduced him to the disciple? Barnabas. Did he preach with them? Yes. He had Lord and how he had boldly in Damascus. Then so he was with them in Jerusalem, coming and going, preaching boldly in the name of Jesus. So he was with the disciples, preaching about Jesus. Agree? And he met the disciples. Okay. Now let's compare.
Now read what Paul himself has said to King Agrippa.
Now this is what he said to King Agrippa before this. What he said.
O King Agrippa, I was not disobedient to the heavenly vision,
Yeah.
but declared first those who in Damascus and in Jerusalem, and throughout all the region of Judea, and then to the Gentiles.
Almost the same. Almost the same. Yes? Almost the same. In Damascus, then Jerusalem. Almost the same. Okay.
Now compare the previous two narrations with what Paul had written to the Galatians about the same subject.
Now, this is one letter of Paul, one of his letters to Galatians. He was narrating about what happened to him. Who's talking?
Oh,
Paul. Where?
Yeah.
Not in act, in his letter. What he said?
but God, in His grace, chose me even before I was born.
Look at the big line.
Ah,
Allah اختار قبل يولد. This is the biggest lie. Even before he was born, God started choosing him. He said, but God, in His grace, He chose me even before I was born.
But you know the first narration,
Yes.
in previous narrations, he was chosen only at Damascus, on the road to Damascus.
Okay, no problem. But when the time comes, but he said, this is the plan of God before I was born. Allah already got his eyes on me. Oh, this is the good one. Okay.
And called me to serve him.
I will call it.
And when he decided to reveal his son to me,
Decided in the road to Damascus.
so that I might preach the good news about him to the Gentiles, I did not go to anyone for advice, nor did I go to Jerusalem to see those who were apostles before me. Instead, I went at once to Arabia, and then I returned to Damascus,
Wait. So, in Damascus, where he go?
Jerusalem.
No. I said, no need.
I,
No need. What he said. And when I decided to to me that I might preach the good news about him to the Gentiles, I did not go to anyone. Anyone. For what? For advice. No need. I get from the source. From Jesus. Then what happened? Nor did I go to Jerusalem
to see who.
to see those who were apostles before me. No need. Look at now he's making himself higher. No need for those people. Can you see? No need. Instead, where he go from Damascus?
I went at once to Arabia.
To Arabia. He came to Saudi Arabia.
Went here.
Yes.
And then
That's what he said. From Damascus,
to Arabia.
there in the narration where he go? Jerusalem. And he met the disciples, you remember?
Yes.
And he was preaching with them. Hence, no need. I go directly, immediately where? To Arabia, to preach. Gentiles. Can you see the difference? Can you see the problem?
Big problem.
Okay, so
And then I returned to Damascus.
look at who before me. Look, I did not go to anyone for advice, nor did I go to Jerusalem to see those who were. No need for this.
To see those who were apostles.
Apostles before me. Instead, I went
At once.
at once to Arabia. And then
I returned to Damascus.
to Damascus.
It was 3 years later that I went to Jerusalem.
Only after 3 years.
To gain information.
But before this, a few days. Can you see? Before a few days, then he go to Jerusalem. Then only after 3 years, those Arabia come back to Damascus. Only after the 3 years. This is the first visit. But there, a few days. We went and tried to join the disciples, and they were afraid. So Barnabas introduced them to the disciples. So they accepted, and they start to go preach. Here only after 3 days.
It was 3 years later that I went to Jerusalem to obtain information from Peter.
Only. Yes.
And I stayed with him for 15 days. I did not see any other apostles except James,
And the Lord's brother.
the Lord's brother.
Only. He went just because he wanted to get an information from Peter. That's the cause. That's because there he tried to join them. They were afraid. So Barnabas introduced him, and he used to be here. No, I said he go over there. I stay 15 days. I say no, only James. Okay.
What I write is true. God knows that I am not lying. Afterward, I went to place in Syria and Cilicia.
غلطية بالعربية غلاطية هذول الناس يعني نصرهم ويرسل لهم رسائل هذه رسائل.
The reader need to be surprised. Not be surprised.
Not to be surprised.
The reader need not be surprised. For this Paul of Galatians is the same Paul of Acts,
But yes,
but with trickery and contradictory testimonies. Can these discrepancies be addressed to God?
no,
Can it be said it is His word?
no.
The discrepancies in these narrations can be summarized as follows.
Hey, look at that now. The discrepancy from the narration. A.
In Galatians,
Galatia, his letter to Galatia.
Paul claimed that after his alleged vision, his route started from Damascus to Arabia, then back to Damascus. Then after 3 years, he left to Jerusalem.
Do you agree about this road?
Yes,
Damascus, Arabia,
Damascus.
Damascus, 3 years, Jerusalem.
And finally, 15 days later, to a place in Syria, then to Cilicia. While in Acts, it started from Damascus and many days later to Jerusalem, then to Caesarea, and then to Tarsus.
B.
B. In Galatians, Paul claimed that after his alleged vision, he did not seek any advice, nor did he need to see the disciples of Jerusalem. Instead, he went at once to Arabia, then back to Damascus. 3 years later, he went to Jerusalem for a visit. While in Acts, it was after many days in Damascus, not 3 years, he traveled to Jerusalem. C. In Galatians, Paul claimed that he went to Jerusalem to obtain information from Peter. He met him and he stayed with him for 15 days. And he did not see any other apostles except James.
Yes.
And no preaching activities were mentioned there.
Now, when he go there to meet for the first time to meet Peter, he saw only.
James and Lord's brother.
Was there any preaching activities? No, with the disciple. But in Acts,
While in Acts, Paul tried to join the disciples, but they were all afraid of him. Then it was narrated that Barnabas was the one who came to him and introduced him to the apostles. So he was with them in Jerusalem preaching.
Preaching.
D. Paul is in Galatians. What I write is true. God knows what that I am not lying. Then this means that the things written in Acts are false.
yes. If he said, I swear, I am telling the truth, so what is in Acts is false.
Yes.
Okay.